Morning everyone and welcome back to 40-minute maths with me, Mr. Gosling. So as promised yesterday, we are going to do some percentages today. But before we move on to that, usual drill, we're going to start a bit of mental arithmetic. You've got to see if you can be quicker than me. So you shout at the screen, I'll shout at the camera. Whoever's first gets a point. Whoever gets most points wins. Ready? Got to be quick. 6 times 4. 24. 3 times 7. 21. 36 divided by 3. 12. 12 plus 17. 29. 63 divided by 9. 7. 19 plus 82. 101. 175 divided by 75. So, I make that to be 7. 120 times 4. 480. Same tip as yesterday. We know 12 times 4 is 48, and you've got 0, you pop it on the end. 9 squared. 9 times 9 is 81. 300 times 4. 1,200. So 3 times 4 is 12, and you put your 2 zeros in the end, 1,200. 7 cubed. So do you know your cube numbers? Hope I do. 343, I believe. 41 times 4. So think about yesterday, partition it. Do 40 times 4, the 1 times 4. I make that to be 164. Yeah, 4 times 4 is 160. 1 times 4 is 4. Add them both together. 7 squares. 7 times 7. 49. Square root of 169, I believe, is 13. 13 times 13, 169. The product of 5 and 6 is 30. So if you didn't know what product is, then you probably would have struggled with that one. Well, you definitely would have struggled with that one. It means multiply. So 5 times 6 is 30. 450 divided by 9 is 50. So the way I did this one in my head is I took away the 0, I did 45 divided by 9, which is 5, then pop the 0 back on to make 50. 9.2 times 2. 18.4. 67 divided by 2. So think about partitioning it, half of 60, half of 7. I make that to be 33.5. And 8 cubed. Do you know your cube numbers? I make that to be 512. And 25 divided by 4. Easy way to divide by 4, half it and half it again. So you should have worked out, hopefully, 6.25. Okay guys, so I'm going to go through today's learning intention, which is to understand what we mean by percentage and to find percentages of amounts. And of course, it'll be the best in the business bonus questions to finish off with if you want a bit of extra challenge. So why is it important that we know our percentages? Well, as you know, Mother's Day has just passed, and my mum wanted a jumper for her Mother's Day present. She gave me 2 options. One was in Next and one was in M&S. And they're both pretty much exactly the same. But it's a bit more expensive in M&S, but there was more of a percentage off. There's a bit cheaper in Next with less of a percentage off. So I had to quickly do my maths and work out which was the best deal. As it turned out, I couldn't afford either of them and she got a bunch of flowers. But there you go. Okay, so before we crack on, I think it's really important that we understand what percentage means and why we do certain things when we find percentages. So percentage basically means out of 100. So it's the same as a fraction out of 100. So if you're going to find 1%, well, 1% is the same as 1 out of 100, and to find 100th of something, you would divide by 100. So to find 1%, you would divide by 100. Okay, 10%. Well, 10% is the same as 10 out of 100. And if we were to find an equivalent fraction, if you were to simplify it down, you should know that that is the same as 1/10. And to find a tenth of something, you have to divide by 10. A lot of times I ask, oh, why is finding 10% divided by 10? People know how you do it, but they don't know why. It's really important in maths that we understand why we do something in order to retain it. To find 5%, you just find 10% and then you half it. Okay. 50%. Well, 50% is the same as 50 out of 100, which is the same, if we simplified it right down, is the same as 1/2. So to find 50%, you half it. And to find 25%, it's 25 out of 100, which is the same as quarter. Easiest way to find a quarter of something is to half it and half it again. Okay, so we're going to go through a few examples now. So we're going to start off nice and easy. So I'm going to find 10% of 600. So you should know that if you divided 600 by 10, which is how you find 10%, you should know that that is 60. 5% of 600. Well, to find 10% is 60, we know we have to half that, because 5% is half of 10%, so 5% would be 30. 1%. 1% you divide by 100, 600 divided by 100 would make 6. And 50%, or to find 50% you half it, which would make 300. And to find 25% is half of 50%, so half and half again, which would make 150. Right, so now I'm going to show you how to find 12% of something. Now, before I continue, I know that a lot of parents at home will be saying, well, I do it a different way to that. There are different ways to do every single maths problem. And if you learn percentages the way I learned it at school, you would just divide it by 100, then multiply it by whatever amount percent it is, which works absolutely fine. But I'm just going to show you a different way. This is a way that I know a lot of the children like to do it, so it's really up to you. As I said before, if you're a pupil and you're watching, find what strategy works for you and then go with that. But there's no harm in learning some different ways. So I've got to find 12% of 3,700. So to find 12%, I've decided I'm going to find 10%, 1%, and 1%, and then add it together. So to find 10%, you divide by 10, which you should have worked out is 370. I'm now going to find 1%. So you divide it by 100, which makes 37. Now, what's important here is you can see that I've lined up my columns correctly. If you don't line up your columns correctly, then you won't get the question right at the end, and you'll see why in a little bit. And I'm going to find another 1%, which again is 37, and I'm going to add it all together. So you guys can chant with me as we go if you want. So 0 plus 7 equals 14. 4, carry the 1. 7 plus 3 is 10, plus 3 is 13, plus 1 again is 14. Always cross it out after you've done it to make sure you remember how to do it. Put the 1 here, and 1 plus 3 plus 1 is 4, and cross it again. So 12% of 3,700 is 444. Okay, so now we're going to find 36% of 4,600. So as I said before, there's lots of different ways you can do this. You can find 1% times it by 36, 10% multiplied by 3 and add 6%, all sorts of different ways. But I'm just going to show you the way that I would do it. I'm going to find 25%, 10% and 1% and add it all together with a column addition, a little bit like I did before. So let's start off with 25%. So just to recall, to find 25% is the same as finding a quarter, so you half it and half again. So half of 4,600 is 2,300, half of 2,300 is 1,150. Okay, I'm now going to find 10%. So 10%, 4,600 divided by 10 is 460. And I'm now going to find 1%, which you should work out is 46. You can see how I've lined up all my columns again. just to give you a nice straightforward column addition. So 0 add 0 add 6 makes 6. You guys can chart at home as I'm doing this. 5 add 6 add 4. We've got a nice little number bond there, so I'm going to add my 6 to my 4 first, which will make 10. Then I'm going to add my 5 to make 15. 1 plus 4 plus 1 makes 6. Cross it out to show that I added it. Then 1 plus 0 makes 1. So 30. Okay, so last one before you guys are going to have a stab at this on your own. So I'm going to find 6% of 460. So I'm going to find 5%, I'm going to find 1%, and I'm going to add it together. So 5%. I've got to find 10% first, which I'm going to do in my head. I'm going to do 460 divided by 10, which makes 46. Then I'm going to half it to make 23. So I know that 5% is 23. I'm then going to find 1%. So I know that 460 divided by 100 makes 4.6. So I'm going to put that in my column addition now. Great. Happy with that? I hope not, because what I'm hoping you've noticed is I've not lined up my columns correctly, which is a column mistake. So you've got to make sure that you've got your 4, which is your 1s, in your correct column. So if you find it hard to line up your numbers with decimals, I would suggest you turn that into 23.0, and then you can put your 4.6 there. You could even, if you want, put another 0 there. Some people like to do that, make sure it looks like a 0. And then you should find it easier. But always make sure you've got your decimal point lined up. So 0 plus 6 makes 6. Put your decimal point in. 3 plus 4 makes 7. And 2 plus 0 makes 2. So 6% of 460 is 27.6. Okay everyone, so here's your questions. I suggest in a moment you press pause, because I'm going to go on and show the answer. So press pause now, and then you can press play again when you've done them. So here's the answers. So I suggest that you press pause now and do the answers, mark your work, before we go on to the best in the business bonus questions. Press pause now. Okay guys, so here are your best in the business bonus questions. So I'd suggest you press pause now, think about the key information and have a go. Okay, so now I'm going to go through the best in the business bonus questions. Usual drill, I'm going to read through, I'm going to underline key bits of information, I'm going to tell you how I came to my answer. So hopefully if you don't get it this time, you know for next time. So let's have a look at them. First one. In Asda, the normal price of toilet roll is £4.50, but there is 22% off. So my key bits of information is £4.50, which is the price, and 22% off. Now it's really important that you know the difference between 22% off and 22% off, and I'll come to that in a minute. In Tesco, the normal price of toilet roll is £5.60, but there is 35%, I'm going to circle it again because it's really important, off the original price. Where should I get my toilet paper? How much money could I save? Right, so to find percentage off an amount, you find the percentage of it, and then you've got to subtract it from the original amount. So, if it costs £4.50 in Asda, I've got to find 22% of £4.50 and then subtract that amount from £4.50 because it's 22% off. To find 35% off £5.60, I find 35% of £5.60 and then I've got to subtract it off that original amount, whatever 35% is. So, if you drew the same conclusions as me and got the same answer, you should have worked out that. In Asda, the new price is £3.51. However, in Tesco's, it's £3.64. And I could have saved 13p if I went to Asda. And as my mum and dad used to say to me, look after the pennies and the pounds will look after themselves. Let's have a look at the next one. So, 60 children chose their favourite sport. 36 out of 60 chose rugby. What percentage is this? So you probably started off by thinking about, right, 36 out of 60 is a fraction, 36 60ths. But then you can't multiply that up into 100 to go into a percentage. But what you might have been able to, because 60 doesn't go into 100, nor does 36. But what you could have done is you could have divided it down. and worked out that 36 over 60 is the same as 6/10. Because you could divide both numbers by 6/10. And 6/10 is the same as 60%. Let's have a look at the next one. Now this one you've got to read really carefully because it's like a reverse percentages sort of problem. It's a little bit like ratio and proportion actually, so you've got to read it really carefully. 30% of a number is 18. So if you had a number and then found 30% of it, the answer is 18. What is 50% of that number? Right, so 30% of it was 18. You can't just multiply 30% up to get into 50%, so you've got to break it down a little bit. I would have worked out if 30% is 18, 10%, 30% is 3 times as many as 10%, 18 divided by 3 is 6. 10% is 6. So if 10% is 6, to find 50%, you've got to multiply it by 5. The answer is 30. Again, if you get a bit confused by that, don't worry too much. It's a slightly different format to the questions earlier. And last one, increase 890, or not been underlined, I'll give you this information. Increase is a really important word. 880 by 12.5%. That word increase is a little bit like the percentages off, but you find the percentage and then you add it on, because increase means to add something on to make it bigger, okay? So how do I find 12.5%? Well, we know how to find 12%. To find half a percent, you'd find 1% and half it. So if you increase £890 by 12.5%, my razor, hopefully you got to 11,125. Thanks a lot, guys. Tomorrow's lesson is going to be on adding and subtracting mixed numbers. If it's something you already know how to do, great. It doesn't hurt you to do it again, because you can also work on your speed and your accuracy. Okay. Apart from that, stay safe, be good. See you tomorrow.